Hey everyone, welcome to our Reddit Reacts. We're going to go through some Reddit threads today, all related to potential OCD symptoms, things within the mental health community we'll talk about in the future as well. But yeah, let's see what we got up first, Danielle.
All right. So up first, we have a post that was posted in our confession. So this wasn't in an OCD specific subreddit. However, due to some of the content, I think, we can maybe make that assumption again. We're not, we haven't seen this person, can't diagnose, but, we'll go through it and see what you think. So the
Well,
title is Convinced I'm a P. So I'm using an abbreviation. I'm as disgusted as you are. Please help. Mods, give me a chance to get help. I can't get help in real life. So OP is a female in her early 20s, and it says, I made a post on here in the last few days about my extreme situation. Please upvote so people can see this and help me. The people in our POCD show signs of seriously irrational anxiety over things that have zero link to P, like worrying that because you had a crush on a 12-year-old when you were a 14 or 7-year-old, when you were 19 makes you a P. It's irrational. Most of them get groinal responses, OCD symptoms, rather than actual arousal. My concern is that I must be a P because I get a strong, in capital letters, arousal response, stronger than any I've ever felt from seeing a photo of a kid, thinking of even just the idea of a kid, or hearing words like girl, boy, or they're 8. No one else with POCD seems to get these extremely strong arousal. It's not just the intrusive thoughts. It began in the last 3 months, and that's the only sign I have that it's just OCD. But when I was contacted by a real P who told me that his began in his 20s, I want to end it. I see posts on that sub, and I instantly know that they're all in the clear and have obvious cases of POCD and are definitely not actual Ps. I'm terrified that I'm actually a P. I'm a P with OCD or a P with morals. They exist, of course, or a P in denial using POCD as a way to be in denial. I need the unwanted arousal to stop. The fact that it does not mean that I cannot be a P, that's a misconception. Plenty of real Ps find it unwanted, and these people are not lying about being Ps. If anyone's interested in why I'm convinced my POCD is actually P, see my post history. Besides, my groinals are extremely strong arousal, so logically, they cannot possibly be groinals. I'm in a crisis because of this, and I'm terrified. You might think you'll probably never act on it, so it's not an issue, but it's an issue for me because the terror is too much. The distress is too much. I can't live like this. The arousal is too uncomfortable and distressing, and I can't stop it from automatically happening. Just because I'm horrified doesn't mean that it can't be true. I've had people tell me your fear is a sign that you're not a P, and they are wrong. I've heard from actual Ps who hate it too, and there's academic literature out there describing it too. I'm a P and I fear this mental disease is irreversible. There's no cure for the paraphilia, and I can't live with being a P, even if it never changes my morals, and so I never end up offending. How could anyone cope with this?
okay, it's a lot to digest.
Mm-hmm.
I guess first I'll just say disclaimer, like we are not here to diagnose or assess or treat
Mm-hmm.
or offer up specific recommendations. We can't, like you mentioned, we don't have this individual in front of us, but I do hope that that individual did end up getting some sort of support that they needed, just because it sounds like they're really, really distressed. But I think that's something important to speak to is like, we hear that all the time with OCD, this kind of like almost like outward ruminative
Mm-hmm.
explanation of what's going on. And a lot of times it's for reassurance seeking to kind of get that confirmation that I'm not that person, or here's the evidence why. There's also some clues in there that I
Mm-hmm.
heard that might really support that, like getting connected with an actual P and hearing their
Yeah.
experience. And then that's like the proof that, okay, it must mean that I'm also like this person, right? So, um, curious if there was anything in there that stood out for you too.
Yeah, same. I think just really, I mean, it's just riddled with a lot of fear of the unknown and fear of the uncertainty, right? Like this person has been talking to lots of different people. At this point, it looks like they might have consulted a professional. They've done research. They've been talking to people who actually identify as Ps, and still, you know, really unsure and not being able to, like, oh my gosh, yeah, I'm just, so sure that this is me, even though I might have evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, for sure. And it's interesting too, like whenever people say like, I know they don't feel like me, or I
Hmm.
know I don't feel like them. And it's like, well, we can only know how we feel, right? We're not in other people's experiences. So even when that individual is referencing like those groinal responses, and because their groinal response is so strong compared to everybody else's, it's like, how are you measuring that? How do you know that for sure? You don't. And that's why it's so terrifying, right? Because we're uncertain. We can't know the answers to that. And we know with OCD again that it attacks your values. It makes you think the opposite of who you are as a person. And that's so debilitating and distressing that you feel like you can't live with yourself, right? All the things that that person kind of explaining.
Yeah, right. And that idea of that like negative kind of specialness, right? Like, oh, it's everybody else but me. Like I am the exception to the rule here. When, maybe, but also maybe not. And really getting caught up in just like these thinking traps of like, it is all this or it's all not, right? And there's no room for anything in the middle.
Yeah, that all or nothing thinking is
Hmm.
definitely another kind of clue there. So tough stuff for someone to be dealing with, but now I'm super curious, like how are people reacting to that? 'Cause I'm sure
Hmm. Yes.
that's going to
Brace
be a
yourself.
place. Yeah, I always do for things like this. I've learned enough over the years.
So we have a comment from someone saying that they are a mental health nurse and they work with various types of offenders, including Ps. Some of the treatment I've seen is to focus on healthy adult relationships. If you think of children while self stimulating, then stop this and try to think solely of adults. If you watch explicit content, then focus more on adult themes as opposed to, younger themes. Try and avoid any incestuous themes, as this is generally an adult dominating over a young person. Invest in healthy adult relationships and avoid things like DDLG or age play, as this would be counterproductive. Distract yourself from any thoughts. And when you find yourself becoming aroused or around or at the thought of children, try to find something to distract you. Mindfulness techniques can help with this, and they offered that OP can DM them.
No, no, no. Let's pump the brakes on the distraction thing in and of itself. There was a lot of stuff in there too that I personally would not
There was a
encourage.
lot to unpack.
Yeah, but the distraction, right? Like if we are talking about unwanted intrusive thoughts that are causing distress, causing impairment, causing more and more doubt, the more time we investigate them, again, all roads kind of lead towards, it sounds like, this very familiar disorder that we know of OCD. Doesn't mean that we know that for sure, but let's speak to what we do know. And when we recommend trying to get rid of the thoughts and distracting ourselves from them and trying to push them out or placing our attention on something else immediately when the thoughts pop in, we are just causing those thoughts to happen more and more and more as time goes on. So distraction is one of the worst things you can do if you're actually struggling with OCD.
Mhm. Yeah, the hard thing about this post was the automatic jump to like labeling this person as a P, I think. And I think it just goes to show how with some of the taboo themes of OCD, there really isn't a lot of awareness or understanding, right? So, people are just like, oh, intrusive thoughts about kids, you must be a P, when like not true with OCD.
Yep. Because just because you have them doesn't equal you are aligned with them
Hmm.
morally, value wise, that you are going to act on those things. They are unwanted, intrusive thoughts. They're terrifying for that individual for a reason because they're
Hmm.
not conjuring them up because they enjoy having them. They're thoughts that are popping in the brain that you don't have any control over at all. The more that we try to control that, the worse it's going to get.
Yes.
Yeah, and like you said, I think it's so important to acknowledge how harmful that can be, to just immediately assume and label the individual as this like horrible person when that's clearly what they're terrified of the possibility of in the first place.
Right. And it's all over the post how like terrified and unwanting and distressing it is.
Yeah.
I'll give you a little bit of a different one.
Okay.
So this post or this response says, immediately you need to stop hyperfixating on this. You need to head straight to therapy, preferably a specialist. You need to secure a diagnosis before you convince yourself that you're something. You're torturing yourself with these feelings and thoughts, and don't be so hard on yourself for something you don't even know isn't just a symptom of OCD and anxiety.
Ooh,
Yes.
yay.
Psychology is more complex than black and white thinking. Please don't hurt yourself or be adamant that you're sick or incurable. There's room to heal and learn what's going on. Stay safe and try to stop Googling these things for your mental health.
Yay. Whoever posts that, you are definitely on a good track. I think, again, without even like labeling the person first, taking a
Mhm.
step back and recognizing that they're clearly really struggling, and before they draw their own conclusions, getting connected to somebody who might specialize in a disorder that sounds like the way that is coming out is a great recommendation. Uh,
Mhm.
Staying off of Google is also another really great.
Staying off of Google is a good one because if you put anything into Google, you can just find all kinds of like catastrophes and horror stories. So yeah,
Yeah,
Google.
you'll always find something to support the thoughts if you search.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Right.
staying off of Reddit too, probably a great idea.
Yeah, sometimes it can be.
Yeah, interesting. Okay.
Uh-huh. Yep. All right, let's check this one. So it says, okay, let's give you some good news first. You're recognizing a problem and asking for help. This is literally the best thing you can do. This puts you very, very high on the moral, willpower, and strength of character spectrum. A lot of P's don't do this. We
Oh
started off strong.
no. I was unsure of where that was going. I was like kind of not feeling great about it, but then yeah, all downhill from here.
So it says sexuality is complicated but also fluid. This may not be permanent for a lot. It is, but there's no reason to give up hope. You can't control what you like, but you can control how you act. Cognitive behavioral therapy or CBT in conjunction with other therapy and psychiatry may help, but take a breath and recognize that you've taken the first step. Now take the second. Google sex therapist, pick up the phone and call one. It's going to be hard, but it's the right thing to do.
No, it's not the right thing to do. Um, we need to stop determining that for people. And just the language in that too, again, drawing the
Mhm.
assumption that this individual likes these thoughts. That was literally their language, right? Like if you like
Yes.
this thing, and it's like, well, nothing in that person's post, the initial post, made me feel like they liked what was happening by
Right.
any.
Very much to the contrary.
Yeah. So, oh God, really bad, poor advice. Don't get your mental health advice from Reddit. That's really the takeaway of this thread for me.
Oh. All right, I'll give you one last one, okay?
Oh God. Okay.
So this says OCD is more complicated than a lot of people think. It can be especially hard on some by causing dark and extremely intrusive thoughts that are hard to get rid of. I'm no doctor, thank you, but I
Thank
wonder
you.
if but I wonder if you would experience less of the issue with adequate treatment for your OCD.
Great thought.
Mm-hmm.
Great thought. Okay, we'll end on a high note with that one then. Yeah, that's like probably the best advice on the entire thing that you just read me. So,
Yes, the ones that are like, hey, this is out of our, above our pay grade here. How about you go talk to somebody who's a specialist?
yep,
Kudos to you.
yep. Stop using Google and Reddit to find answers to uncertainty and scary thoughts. Speak with a specialist.
Mhm.
That's what we're all here for.
Yes, definitely. All right. Well, that's one of our Reddit reacts. If you find any content that you would like us to feature in a YouTube video, feel free to drop it in the comments. And maybe it'll pop up at some point later on. And thank you for watching.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.